and welcome to We Women Want. This is our weekly show where we discuss issues pertaining to women. We try and find out solutions for issues where they need help, whether it is a health issue, whether it is a style issue, whether it is domestic violence, whether it is work-life balance. But this week we're going to be discussing something very important because we have to see the whole picture. It's not always the woman who is the victim. Sometimes she can be the femme fatale. She can also misuse laws that are meant to help her. Some women give the rest of them a bad name. But unfortunately, there are more cases than one could even imagine regarding this. Joining me on the show is Deepika Narayan Bhardwaj. She's a documentary filmmaker and activist and someone who brings a lot of these cases to light for us. Dr. Alka Dahar, she's a founder and managing partner, Law Offices of India. And Rupam, she is here. She's representing her brother Manjeet, who unfortunately cannot join us today because he is the victim of some of the stories that we're going to be talking about. His wife filed false cases against him, starting from domestic violence, etc. And in the end, the reason he's not here with us today is that he was murdered. The police investigation has actually traced the trail back to her brother, to the wife's brother and his bodyguards. The family is, the brothers have been, are facing some investigation, but the wife has been let off. So Manjeet's family is here, his sister is here, his mother is also here off camera. She is too emotional to join us at this point, but we hope to try and tell their stories and through their stories try and bring to light the kind of misuse that is happening. Deepika, I'll begin with you because you really introduced Rupam to us. Can you tell us, the kind of cases that are happening and also a bit about Rupam's story? Then I'll ask her to tell her story.
Priya, for the last, I think, a month and a half, after Atul Subhash's case in December, India kind of woke up to the misuse of 498A, finally after 4 decades.
Atul Subhash is the techie in Bangalore.
Yeah, the techie in Bangalore, right?
Committed suicide and left a note saying harassment.
Yes, correct. And a 1.5 hour long video as well. But the Meerut murder, I think, has now woken up India to the fact that there are men who are actually not just being harassed because of misuse of laws. There are men who are actually being murdered by their wives after a long-term harassment, mental abuse, physical abuse, and they are eventually murdered.
Or driven to suicide.
Driven to suicide. Suicides are happening like every day. Today itself, I have since morning read 3 cases of murder and 2 cases of suicide. So it is that frequent, but unfortunately, it is not much talked about. It's now that these gory murder cases are being covered by the media, and people are willing to listen to these victims or families who have gone through something horrific as that. But we have been documenting such cases for years now, Priya. Almost every day there is a man who is murdered in India by his wife who has an extramarital affair. She joins hands with the lover and then kills the husband.
But it is not always murder. Sometimes the harassment is also...
Oh yes, absolutely. Murder is the extreme form, I'm saying. Harassment ke to koi numbers hai hi nahi. Matlab, there is no documentation, but because there are no laws for men. Otherwise, there are lakhs of men who are suffering in their marriages today.
Because they undergo domestic the dowry law.
No, not just misuse of law, but they're actually subjected to abuse. We get so many videos where they are beaten up, they are abused. Gaaliyan to bahut common hai, not just for the husband, but his entire family. I'll tell you about a video that has come to us yesterday. There's a man whose wife has taken orders from the court in a domestic violence case. Fine, she's the wife, she has the residence rights. She's got 7 family members of hers who are sitting in his sitting in his house and abusing him, his entire family. Imagine 7 versus 1. So, okay. And all of these are sisters, mommy, chachi, whatever. She has brought all women in there and camping in the house. So, what can he do? Really, police doesn't help.
Because the law is also, slanted in favor of the woman. So, Rupam, I'll get Alka to tell us about the law, but can you tell us a bit about your story? Because in the end, what happens is, the wife, what she does is, she's not just the husband, she even targets the husband's family. And let's not remember, we all, women activists in that sense, but every brother has a mother and a sister. So, who's going to fight for them? That family also. So, thoda sa, if you can tell us, what exactly happened with you?
Ma'am, our story is very simple. My brother decided to marry the love of his life, Megha Rathod, whom he was dating for past 8 years. And they got married with all the blessings of both of the families. But thing turned upside down, not for Manjeet or for Megha, but all of us also when we lost our father just 10 days after the wedding. And because he met an accident. But what happened post that was, she was not in favor of Manjeet living with us, me and my mother. Despite the fact that Manjeet has clearly mentioned in the application to his bank, he was an IT manager in the bank.
So he was in another town. After your father's death, he put an application to come to you and your mom.
Yeah, he was posted about 250 kilometers away from us. So it was not really economically, financially, physically feasible for any person to travel this long. So he decided to live with us, and he decided to take care, to fulfill all his responsibilities, not just as a husband, but also as a son, also as a brother. And he was doing all of that with very patience. But then Megha was not up for it. She initially tried to force Manjeet or compel Manjeet not just live separate from his mother and sister, but also if he does not do what she says, then he will have to see the consequences. And that is fake domestic cases, fake maintenance case. And the demand of maintenance was much more beyond than his actual salary was. So everything continued for 6 or 7 months, and before he could proceed with the case, or before he could think what to do next, he got murdered by 2 assassins.
And the police investigation?
The police investigation is going. People who hired the shooters, people who shot him from the point blank range, they all are behind the bar. But the point is, the person who had this, who we also think is the main conspirator behind everything, is his wife, and that is not even arrested yet.
So police has investigated the wife, or they've only investigated her brother?
They detained her for 24 hours and then they left her.
But more than the murder investigation, Alka, which is of course going on to the police, I'd like you to talk about the laws, the misuse of laws, and the harassment her brother has obviously gone through before this.
Well, my heart goes out to her, and of course, I mean, that's the worst of the worst cases. But, and I am totally, I do know, I have seen it during my legal career, that laws have been misused. But I have to start with that these women-centric laws were made because women are a vulnerable section of the public. They have been discriminated, and bias does exist against them in the society. It was precisely for this reason that these laws were they were enacted, and the legislature thought that it's best in their wisdom to have these laws in place. Now, I'm not saying that the cases were Deepika. I've seen some of the cases she's done. Kudos to her and her team. Yes, it does happen. And the cases that she has, she says, the husband was harassed in such a way. But, I'm not pointing figures at anything. But for every case that a husband has been harassed, there could be another case where a woman has been harassed. So the point is not that who's been harassed and who's not been harassed. The point is that the laws that we have to be gender neutral.
That's a very good point.
Women-centric laws, men-centric law is not going to happen, because for the justice to be just, it has to be gender neutral. It has to be fair to everybody. So the very premise, like a lot of men's activist organizations are now saying that we need laws for the men. But that's a counter-reaction to the misuse being done to the laws that were enacted first to protect the women in the first place. And yes, they have saved lives. So point is that the laws are there. What I see is how do we go forward on this is that the implementation of these laws has to be correct. Inherent safeguards have to be put in to ensure that the misuse of any of these laws is dealt with exemplary punishment. Now, just recently, there was a Allahabad High Court judgment. So the court observed that this guy had been accused of false rape charges. And the court did observe, which I thought was an aha moment, and they said that mere acquittal of that man is not good enough. Punishment should be meted out, and yes, it did. Then again, there was another judgment by Madhya Pradesh High Court in which the false charges were filed, And again, the court said exactly the same thing. Then again, there was another case. I'm just citing these cases just to give you a blueprint on how the courts and the judiciary is eyeing these cases and viewing these cases. Now, again, there could be a rape charge first, and the man could have got acquitted, but that doesn't mean that the rape charge was false. So what does this all bring us to? The moot point here is the judiciary. The judicial discretion has to be perfect. It has to have the safeguards in place so that these laws are not misused.
See, that's the issue. It should be taken case by case, not that all women are victims and all men are liars. That is also what is the mindset and stereotyping that's going on. So, how do we, get beyond this? Maybe not new separate laws, but do we need to educate, our judiciary system, or do we need to come out people like you who are bringing other cases to light so we hear the other side?
I think, Priya, right now, just like in 2012, the country was wounded because, so much wrong was happening to women, and people felt that we did not have strict laws, and hence there was a criminal law amendment 2013. I think right now the country is also wounded to see what's happening with men. I personally feel so. It's not men versus women at all, but it's just that as a citizen of this country, men also are equally deserving of the same dignity, rights, dignified life the Constitution, entitles everyone to. After so many cases, I think the least that the government can do, Priya, and which is the need of the hour, is to form a committee to look into the efficacy of these laws. See, rape law has to protect women from rape. But rape laws cannot be used as a tool for extortion, which is happening in today's time. Even police officers have been involved, even NGOs have been involved. There have been, just the recent Varanasi case, if we talk about now, the entire country went completely haywire on that case, right? And there are some absolutely disturbing details now coming out of that case, that she was roaming around with the same boys, she was on bike with the same boys, she was sending Instagram messages to the same boy. Imagine somebody. Right now, of course, the SIT has to come out with a report, but imagine how can a 20-year-old girl, what gives her the confidence to implicate 23 men? And she has made a story of 7 days, which is now crumbling out every single day. There are cases that I have done where I have exposed these women, where the woman is filing 9 rape cases, 15 rape cases, blatantly telling that it is only the woman's word which is heard in a case of rape or any other women-centric crime, and hence she can levy these charges, and then even if she flips out or it is proven a lie later, then she does not have to face any consequences. So there has to be a committee.
What she's saying, exemplary punishment.
Yes,
false cases get.
Absolutely, there has to be a deterrent. We have come to the point of 490 misuse today, where even in small talukas, even in small towns, the moment a marriage goes haywire, there is a dispute, the woman gets up and says कि मैं तेरी पूरी family को सड़वा दूंगी जेल में. What gives her this confidence? The confidence has come because the misuse has gone on for so long, unchecked. There is no deterrent. People have died by suicide. But there is no punishment. No, Alka, I understand that, a case of acquittal may not necessarily be a false case, but there are tons and tons of false cases where nothing has happened, to the person who filed the false case.
That brings me, fair points there. That brings me to what I said. Implementation.
Yes, correct.
Judicially, accountability. Accountability.
Yes.
We have, without naming the judgments, there have been so many high court judgments which are totally beyond reality, totally beyond. The legislature has to be based, again, on reality, not on assumptions and perceptions of the judges. So that is where, the training of the judges, the judiciary has to be held accountable. They have to interpret the laws moving in with the times. Like the Domestic Violence Act, that was in 2005. I mean, we are now in 20 years. The legislature, amendments have to be in tune, have to be in pace with what's happening in the world today. And why is this debate only about men versus women? LGBTQ and plus, identities. Who are we to say that it only applies to men and women? And then again, I do understand where these legislations come from, because you see POSH, for example. It's only applicable to sexual harassment of women at workplace. Who are we to say that men don't get harassed? They do day in and day out, right? And even the Domestic Violence Act, it says aggrieved woman. agreed woman could be a wife, the sister, whatever, but it has to be a female. Why doesn't it not apply to men? And again, to LGBTQ and plus, why not? Because these are also individuals. Harassment cannot be limited to just a gender. It is, it has to be applicable to all the individuals. So here the legislature also, I think, needs to come in. The judiciary, of course, which I think it's moving in.
But
and
unfortunately, the Supreme Court doesn't want to even hear. There have been so many PILs of late where people are asking for gender-neutral laws, and the Supreme Court always shrugs its duty. Fine, that is definitely in the domain of the parliament, but you as the apex court at least should acknowledge that men are also now facing a lot of issues.
Can I say something? There was an court, I won't name which court it was, in which the court did say that the DV Act should also cover the men. He did pass an order like that, but later on it was recalled back. Because, but then he thought that it was made specifically.
This was Karnataka High Court.
Yes, but I don't want to take the...
Women's rights activists went completely...
But that just shows.
After the judge.
On this point, I think I should take a break also and come back, and I want to bring in Rupam and hear a bit more about her story, but after a very quick break. Hello and welcome back to We Women Want. This week we're taking a look at women's rights, but from another angle. Are women misusing their rights? We're also trying to talk about the men. What about their rights? And it's, man is never an individual in a silo. There is a mother, there is a sister, there is an aunt, there are cousins. You're saying that cases were filed against all of you. Tell us a bit about that, and how, to the target was not just your brother, but his entire family.
Ma'am, I will begin with what I read last night itself, that the 498A and the use of 498A is often being termed as legal terrorism.
Legal terrorism.
Legal terrorism. And rightly so, because in our case what happened was, it was only 4 of us living under the roof, and we lived hardly, post my father's death, hardly for 10 to 15 days. But when my brother's wife began to file cases against us, be it 498A, be it dowry, be it domestic violence, be it maintenance, she not even for a while think that why I am naming even those people who don't even reside here. So our entire family lives in Bihar. My cousins are based out of Bihar. And she named all of them. Why? Because this is the way out for people to make sure that nobody stands for them. Okay, so Manjeet's mother and sister can't stand up for him because now they are also named in the case. But just in case his cousins or his, extended family wants to be, beside him, they make sure that they also don't get the opportunity, because you can name them as a culprit. You can accuse them, culprit number 1, culprit number 2, culprit number 3, and the list is endless. You can name all of them, so that there is no way out for anybody to come there and help them out. And this happened in our case also. 2 of my cousins who are not even based, in this city, who don't even come to Delhi. They come hardly in, 3 or 5 years or so for a day or two. But just because they were in touch with us regularly, they were keeping in check, if we are doing good post my father's death or post everything. They made sure that they all are named in the case.
So we are hitting your support systems.
Yeah, hitting the support system. And not just family, but friends also. Calling Manjeet's friends that, this has happened. In case you help him or you decide to be with him, don't think that my brother and my brother's bodyguard can't do anything to you. So now, even for their protection, their family's protection, they are also stepping back, because they have seen what has happened to Manjeet.
And very important thing in Manjeet's case, Priya, which is the problem here, is that Manjeet had filed a complaint. He was getting death threats. Yes, Rupam's brother.
6 complaints.
He had filed multiple complaints, but the police did not act, and it led to his murder. Imagine a woman going to the police station and saying that my husband is giving me death threats. Will the police not act? Probably in some case, there must be some cases where even the women are not heard.
My wife is giving me death threats. What was the complaint?
Yeah, his wife was giving the death threats.
So that is the complaint.
Yeah.
And the police did nothing about it.
But then there again, there are legal remedies to it. The police can be held accountable after the filing of the complaint. What is the investigation? See, then again,
I think it is very, very,
naive
for us to think that
it's
everyone
gonna
knows
work.
the law. Women do not know the law. You know, there are so many women who are victims who don't even know. In
Their
fact,
rights.
I'll come to a very important point, Priya. What is this doing? This is not a men versus women thing. I think women's right activists or feminists should not see people like me as a threat at all, because all that I'm saying is for fair use of laws and not allowing laws to be used as a weapon. And why do I say that? Recently, I helped a woman in Gurgaon. She was beaten black and blue by her husband. I'm literally saying, I saw the photos. She was, you know, blue all over, and she was not heard at the police station. I had to call senior police officers. I had to put the photos, with the identity disclosed on social media, and then there was so much of this thing. Now, why is this happening? Because in 2014, Supreme Court gave a guideline that no immediate arrests of the husband in matters of 498A. Now, because of the misuse, there is quite a clear understanding that the case will first go to the women's cell. There will be a mediation. Although Supreme Court was very clear that in case of, you know, matters like this where there's physical violence, there is no embargo on the police not to arrest. They can still arrest. But what has the misuse led? It has led to real, genuine victims also finding it very tough to get justice. Is that something that we want? No, we do not want that. How can that be stopped? By, you know, heavily punishing the misusers.
By effective implementation.
Yes, effective implementation
of the laws which are already
And
enforced.
making examples, yeah.
You know, because under BNS and under IPC, because IPC is ingrained in our psyche, so I'm just saying BNS. I mean, we do have remedies. We do have the legal remedies for assault, for conspiracies, for murder, for rape. I mean, all the provisions, all the legal provisions are in place. Now, what is lacking is implementation. Second, what is lacking is accountability. Of the police authorities and the judiciary.
Totally agree.
They have to be held accountable. These two things are put in place, the rest of it will all fall into place.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
because just changing the laws is not going to make, because even if you change the laws, if the implementation is not
I'll
proper.
bring in an example from our neighbor, which happens to be, you know, peanut size as compared to our economy. Bangladesh brought in an amendment to their laws. They saw that their dowry laws also was being misused, and now they have in the Dowry Act itself made a specific provision that if somebody files a false case, there is a imprisonment also, and there is fine also. And recently there's a woman who actually got punished. 4 months of jail and about 50,000 something like that fine.
But Deepika, we have that also. Perjury. Perjury is what? Lying on affidavit.
Yeah.
If you're filing a false case in the court.
Alka, have you ever, I don't know of one
Because
single
again,
case where a 498A false case filer got
haven't.
imprisoned?
No, I haven't. You know why? But again, like I said, you know, the judiciary also has to be accountable. They have to be they have to be in step with the times that is moving on. Correct. They have to know that things have moved on and changed. The judiciary's judicial discretion has to be held accountable.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And if that happens, we have all the provisions. We don't need to make any more laws.
I'll just
be it men-centric or women-centric.
There's a case in Supreme Court that I helped a former captain of Indian Army. The woman who filed a false rape case has filed 9 such rape cases within Delhi alone. So Supreme Court called it abuse of process of law. They recognized it as a false case, but they did not do anything against the woman. That's where the problem is.
That is where the problem is.
Our apex courts have to set an example. If there has to be deterrent, if the men of this country need to understand that they cannot violate a woman's consent, they cannot do wrong to a woman, they cannot indulge in assaulting a woman, I think there has to be a deterrent. It's time when women also understand that they cannot ruin somebody's life with a false case, and they cannot also take to criminal activities and think that they'll get away because they are women. So that's the only thing.
And that is the tragedy, because of, you know, some women, everybody else then is looked with suspicion, or laws that are meant to help harm them. But Rupam, just before we go end, what has the reaction been from the police? Is it only after your brother's death they have started moving? Usse murder rather. Usse pehle there was no, your brother got no.
No, nothing, nothing. He just continued to file complaints. He filed complaints, at the various intervals of time, whenever he felt that someone is, calling him from unknown number and threatening him that more could be done. It's not just the false cases. You could also be died. Your family is in threat. So he filed complaint then and there also. And when there were days when he used to go to his office and he used to realize that maybe someone is, behind him all the time, following him. So he even filed with vehicle number complaint also, that this vehicle number is following me since then. But the thing is, nobody reacted to all of those. Even, post his murder, when I went to those police station and to those places, including the human rights, where he had filed the complaints, and I asked them, what you guys do when you receive such complaint? And they say, we don't do nothing until unless something really happens. So for a person, a person who feels that my life is in threat, and the person is giving written complaints to the DM office, to the nearest police station, to the human rights department, everywhere, nobody is following that up. They will wait until something happens, and if there is any surviving, they will come to us or not. Thankfully, we had the copy of all those complaints that my brother submitted. I think just in case we did not had the access to all of them, how would we even be knowing that he did so much? And that's what we are fighting for. We have so many evidences. We have, there's my story that he had written, and he had clearly mentioned everything that he was going through.
It's a complete failure of the system.
Imagine if a wife was murdered. Let's suppose even if husband was least involved at all, or husband's family was, got the murder done, would the husband not be thoroughly investigated? Forget about investigation, Priya. He would be the first one to be picked up and put behind bars. Forget investigation. That's what happens. There are so many cases now. There are bizarre cases of dowry death that have come to fore, where the woman is actually found alive. After 4 or 5 years, the man and his entire family is in prison in dowry death, whereas the woman is alive. So, wahan pe to they don't even look for evidences. The immediate reaction is, put this person behind bars. But here, in exactly opposite case, they're saying we are not finding anything, we are not finding any involvement of the wife. The wife has deleted all the chats. She has removed all her social media footprints. She was literally threatening Manjeet over WhatsApp chats. His phone, unfortunately, has not been unlocked till date, and that's why we don't have access to those chats. She literally told him, ki you don't know what will happen to you. How can we believe that she was not involved? Living in the same house, when there is a conspiracy of murder going on, a person who is the closest to that person, and because of whom all of this is happening, would she not know? The assassins have said clearly to the police that she used to be taken away from the city when earlier attempts were made at Manjeet. So this was not the first time that they had made it. They were doing recce for the last months
so maybe,
to get him murdered.
Maybe let's give her some credit, she did not know. But the fact of the matter is, shouldn't the police see a direct connection? Should they not investigate and not just let her off with
But also, you see, we are also, but her case, we don't know the facts are, but it does seem like a complete system failure.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
also, we also have to keep in mind that there have to be certain procedures.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds totally, totally insensitive vis-a-vis her case, but keeping in view the judiciary as a whole, the legal system as a whole, the police cannot just be empowered to just go and pick up a guy and put him in the jail.
No, that's absolutely
There has to be certain
right.
procedures,
That's
but the thing is that it has to be quick, efficient, and that is the system.
Okay.
I think
Unfortunately,
another thing, Priya,
unfortunately
very
so.
important
Give the
is,
last word to Rupam,
when we talk about gender justice, let us please understand that there is not only one gender here. I think our authorities, our judiciary, our police has to be sensitive to the issues that all genders face.
Fair enough,
You know, it should not be that only women's issues have to be given the topmost priority and let people like Manjeet get murdered despite giving complaints. Everybody should be sensitive to whosoever the victim is, irrespective of gender.
Absolutely.
So I'm talking about the procedure that you said. So I have read this, that disclosure statement or the statement that you give in front of the police is not is not considered did not get bite by the court unless and until you don't give your state 164 statement. So my point is, if the girl is saying in front of the police and crying and that I am depressed, I was not involved, how do you trust that? That's a disclosure statement. You are saying I loved him, but in the mediation you gave your statement and said I don't want to live with him. And just month and 7 days post that statement, he got murdered. So how
but
do
there
you?
has to be a
has
connection
to be.
between
So
her and the murder. That I agree with Alka on
That I
that.
completely agree with you. Whatever you're saying is true. And what you're saying, the truth of it has to be brought out.
how do you bring out the truth in a case?
Absolutely.
So
You,
give
me, and
everybody-
cannot go and do it. It is the justice system and the police authorities.
So we do hope the case will
So the
be
buck
heard.
stops there.
Buck stops there on the basis of the case and not the gender. You know, if a woman is filing it, then it's more important than if a man is filing it. That is the larger point, really, that Deepika has also made over here on that note. But thank you so much for this conversation, and Rupam, I do hope you get justice soon. We really, you're fighting. You're doing a very good job, both you and your mother. We really hope that something happens. Justice is done
I'd
soon.
like to say one thing which I shared with ma'am also. The day Atul sir suicided, attempted suicide. That was the day he came to me, and in my lap, he literally cried.
Yeah, brother.
Despite being my elder brother, he came to me and cried. He watched the entire video. He told us nothing about it. And then he came and said, मम्मी एक ऐसा सेम केस हुआ है, मेरे पास भी सारे सबूत हैं, बट मुझे भी डर लग रहा है क्योंकि कोई नहीं सुनता. And that's the only reason that we are here today. That's the only reason that we are here. He had these evidences. He tried his best to, fight legally. Despite that, he was very much drained emotionally, financially, in all possible ways. But till his last breath, he fighted for it. One of the police officials came to us and said, your brother died because even till the time of his death, he was performing the act of goodness. He was asking the shooter if they because what they did was in front of his car, they made sure that their bikes fall down, and he came out of his car to check on them, while one of them, shot him.
There is really nothing to say after this, really. We just hope that the system does now stand up and do right by Manjeet's family. On that note, thank you so much for this show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.